Welcome to the BNI Knox podcast with your hope, with your host Andy Brassfield, and I have as my special guest today on the line with me Susan Moser, and Susan is one of our director consultants here in the Knoxville region. And Susan is with GAMA Networks, been in that business or with GAMA for about 8 years, and previously was a business owner with a marketing company and was in property management. She has 3 boys, 4 dogs, loves music, dancing, poker, motorcycles, shooting pool, fishing, and treasure hunting. Treasure hunting in quotation marks. I'd like to maybe learn a little bit more about that. Been in Knoxville all her life. Her burning desire is to write a book for young people that helps them understand that being imperfect does not keep them from the love of God. And she graduated high school at age 16 and went to school to become a criminal attorney. And now she's a BNI Director Consultant.
Big jump there.
All right. a big jump. And welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
So, how long you been in BNI?
Right about 23 years, give or take. Long time.
23 years. And when you joined BNI, what business were you in at that time?
I was doing business development for a software development company, a work in progress manufacturing software.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you're still in the tech field, but you somewhere along the line you were in property management. I know that we've talked about that before.
Yes, actually I was. I actually ran into that opportunity through my marketing company. I had a marketing company with my ex-husband, actually, and there was a property management company that had bought a multi-family property in Oak Ridge, and he had told them, if you want to increase your business, you need to talk to my wife. So long story short, I went out there, I walked the property, I was not impressed, but they asked me to at least talk to the owners. And so they flew down, I believe it was in Minnesota. It was Aspen Square Management. And he offered me a job that day. And, you know, God's timing is perfect. So I ended up taking that position and was there for 9 years, really enjoyed it. And during that time, although I was not a steady member in a BNI chapter, I used BNI tradespeople. I would work within the BNI system. Dan Rawls and I communicated. So I was kind of a honorary member during that time, but I knew that the people that were in the BNI chapters I was meeting with, talking with, and using on my property were going to be honest and ethical people, because you don't last in BNI if you're not.
That's right. Yeah, BNI will either promote you or expose you.
Exactly.
Over time.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
What are you doing at GAMA these days?
I handle all of the operations and business development for GAMA Networks. So everything in-house, from HR to billing to customer service to putting quotes together inside the office. And then I meet with all of our clients and potential clients and get to know them and try to help close the deal there and make sure that they are very well taken care of as we bring the techs on site to start the actual work.
Okay.
Multiple
yeah,
hats.
that is a full hat. Yeah. You've got a full plate, as I like to say, and your director consultant supporting. I believe it's 4 of our chapters.
Correct.
Yeah. How's that going?
I enjoy that a lot. It is the up and downs that I think create the character in people. So I work with NRG, elite professionals, Black business professionals, and Knoxville business connections. And these are all chapters that are in different times of their BNI life. And I guess my heart is to educate and connect. And I've been around BNI for that long. I believe in the process and the system. And so I see where there are needs in these chapters, and I am more than happy to help them as much or as little as I possibly can.
Now, being a director consultant obviously is not your primary occupation, and yet your company, GAMA, allows you or affords you the time to work with your BNI chapters. What I'm curious to know is what kind of impact does that have on GAMA? Does GAMA get anything out of the involvement that you have with 4 BNI chapters plus your membership at Rainmakers?
The first and foremost thing that Alan gets is a happy Susan. He likes that. Actually, back years ago, part of my marketing and business strategy had a lot to do with any networking opportunity that comes down the pike. And I tell this story in my BNI chapters. It's like, always know why you are here, because time is money, and are you spending it wisely? So I would, and this is how I met Dan Rawls and got involved in BNI, was going to chamber events and coffees and expos and anything coming and going, I would do. And, I jokingly say I ate a lot of chicken wings and free donuts and free beer and free coffee and a lot of business cards, but I didn't make a lot of money. A lot of social contacts. But part of the whole plan for GAMA, when I had an opportunity to come here and get back involved as a true member of BNI, of course we jumped on it. Alan had been a member for a year prior. That is not his world. He wasn't really good at it and didn't have a huge interest in it. However, it is mine. So having that exposure and helping other people, not just within the Rainmakers chapter I'm a member of, but supporting 4 other chapters, it's a great example of giver's gain. I get to help them, and every once in a while something comes back. I get great referrals through BNI, and it is the largest part of GAMA's marketing that goes on is through BNI and my connections there.
Chapters that you work in that already have an IT company as a member, how does that work? Do you have to be hush hush and walk on eggshells around them, or do you find that they turn into partners?
Actually, they turn into partners. When I go into my chapters as a director consultant, I never mention my company name. When I'm I'm always from BNIKnox.com. Or not .com, but BNI Knoxville. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the website here. But I believe that you have to be ethical, and I am there as engaged by Andy Brassfield, the executive director, to support the team, not to get exposure for GAMA Networks. When I go to have one-to-ones with members of other chapters, my main focus, the ones that I support, is to learn a little bit more about them and see if I can help them and build a relationship. And one of the main things that I talk to them about is their ask, and get them to think about being very, very specific. But as far as the IT companies specifically, I have built a couple of very good relationships with IT companies and other BNI chapters, because the majority of them have a business model that is very different than GAMA. So it has been a win-win for us in that manner.
That's cool. So we want to encourage our members to consider what's next for you in BNI. For our members that are at the chapter level, we encourage you, first of all, serve on your chapter's leadership team. The first opportunity you get, even if you feel that that's outside of your comfort zone, maybe being at the head table makes you nervous, or you don't, you don't see yourself as that type of leader. But we encourage growth among our members, and then, we like to move people up in the region. Next step after serving on chapter leadership is serve as an ambassador. And we do have some chapters right now that don't have an ambassador, so we have some openings there on the ambassador team. And finally, we're developing ambassadors into director consultants, and we're working behind the scenes to build and develop that team, because they are the heartbeat of our region, supporting the chapters. And so I just want to encourage members to think about what's next in BNI. Now, last week we made the announcement as to the chapter that won the contest around International Networking Week. And all the chapters were encouraged to participate by having visitors around International Networking Week, and we measured visitors per member, and we awarded, or we have named the winner of the contest was the NRG chapter. So congratulations going out again to NRG and the members there and the leadership there. They just edged out Rainmakers chapter for the win on that, and so I'm scheduled to go March the 1st and to actually hand deliver the certificates for dinner for each one of the members of that chapter. So I'm really excited about that, and just wanted to give congratulations to the NRG chapter. Just so happens to be one of the chapters that Susan supports. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. And did you have any feedback from any members about International Networking Week? Were there any stories or things that people said that they got out of it, or anything at all?
I think that the members of BNI, and I know the chapters I work with and the Rainmakers as a member, they love a good competition. And so once you start throwing that out there, you get some excitement going there. But I think part of the feedback that I got was the chapters were very prepared. They had additional members that would usually maybe not have a visitor there, brought some. So that's always a great increase there of participation. And they really just enjoyed it. I think I know that you went to a lot of chapters and actually did a presentation that I thought was excellent for the week and very educational, not only for the members, but definitely for our visitors and guests, but the connections after that. And I think that we are going to pick up some nonprofit companies and some different types of categories based on just that week alone that you wouldn't normally think about inviting there. So I think that's probably the biggest feedback is the new categories we'll be filling off of that. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Some of what I would have thought of as non-traditional categories, in BNI,
Yes.
and you mentioned one is nonprofits, and we have had a couple of nonprofits. In fact, there's one in the Rainmakers chapter, and we had some nonprofits represented, at some of our chapters during International Networking Week, and so it's really interesting to see how BNI can help them too. We had one guy over at Blunt Business Professionals that he introduced himself as his job at his nonprofit is to raise money.
Yes.
And I thought, dude, you're in the right place.
I think that there is a lot of opportunity for all types of connections within the BNI world, and I think one of the not specific to nonprofits, but one of the funniest things that I personally had hands in during that week was at the NRG meeting. There was a young lady who represented a company, and I've known her for a long time, and she's consistently kind of been on the edge of being part. She's been involved with trying to start some chapters closer to the area where she comes from. So I really pushed her to connect into a chapter, and she needed a lunch chapter. And at the same time, another lady with the same company has kind of been on the outskirts of joining also. So when I brought the one in that I saw at NRG ready to put in the application, that sense of urgency hit into the other lady, and she actually emailed me saying, she's not going to be there because I'm coming, I'm ready, and she turned an application in last week. So it was like connecting with some people you haven't seen in a while, because, not every day is the perfect day for someone to join BNI. But
yeah, that's right.
These type of events is the perfect way to get them back. That if you've not seen them in months, and maybe now it's a better time for them. So I thought that was kind of a funny little story, and I don't want to talk about names or companies, but it's going to be good. We're actually going to get the other lady engaged in a chapter also, because she told me this is the year. So, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and having these types of events for our chapters, it's not about necessarily who comes in and turns in the application. Actually, it's probably less about that than who did you get into your room that you can make a connection with.
Yeah, and connections is what we were talking about. The presentation that you referred to that I made at a few of the chapters is one we call 24/7 and 30. And this presentation, this idea, I heard it from Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, and I think he's done a podcast or two, written some articles around this 24/7 30 method. It's a system for follow-up is what it is. And and the idea here is that we have people coming in, visiting our chapters, whether they're a visitor or a substitute or a guest, because in our meetings, we ask for everybody to wear one hat and one hat only. So, don't try to be both a visitor and a substitute on the same day, for example. But when these people come into our chapters and they're given the opportunity for the members to connect with them, what are the members doing with it? And so this method that Dr. Meisner teaches is a great way of taking these contacts and turning them into connections that, you can be connected with people for years and years, whether or not they actually join your chapter. So, so the 24 is from the day that you have a visitor or a substitute at your chapter. Within 24 hours, you want to send them a note. And of course, I like the handwritten note, but it takes time to do that. So sometimes it's hard to find time to sit down and write handwritten notes, especially if you have a big day where there's lots of visitors and you're thinking, it's going to take me an hour or two to write out all those notes. And if you're like me, you really have to slow down when you're writing a note that you expect someone to be able to read. Because, I can read writing, but I can't write reading. So I have to slow down to do that. But a handwritten note's not the only way. I don't know, Susan, if you have a preference, what you like to do as far as following up with people within 24 hours. There's email, there's send out cards, there's, regular thank you cards that you can send out. But when I receive a card from someone, in fact, I'm at my desk right now. I'm looking at a card that was mailed to me, and I have a hard time throwing them away when they're handwritten.
Yes.
There's just something about it. I like to leave it on my desk for a while. Sometimes I'll pin it up on a board or something. But the handwritten cards, they just mean more to me, you know. But at least send an email or a text message or or some kind of a card in the mail, within 24 hours after you meet someone. Now, this could apply also at any other type of networking event or social event, right?
Yes, absolutely it can. I'm in the world of technology, so I do a lot of emails and some texting. The handwritten note, though, based on, and I think that you even made the comment to this at one of the meetings, we don't have snail mail a lot anymore. So when you're getting something through the mail like that, if people enjoy doing that and take the time, it does stand out a lot more nowadays than it used to.
If you want to stand out from your competition, try sending a handwritten note.
Absolutely.
And these follow-ups are not sales calls, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, I think our rule of thumb is you only mention BNI one time, and that is just to let them know where you all met at.
Yeah. Glad to see you at the BNI meeting last week. Would love to learn more about your business and how I can help you, something like that. It doesn't have to be a long letter. In fact, I believe brevity is valuable. Keep it brief as possible. Let's move on to 7, 24/7. So 7 is 7 days, and within 7 days, follow this person or these people on social media. Now, I'll tell you, there for a few years, my Facebook page was mine, and I felt that it was for personal use, friends, but business associates. I was like, nah. But my perception of that has changed over the years. That I am connecting with more and more people on Facebook, whether it's business or personal, or whatever. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that the lines between business associate and friend are being blurred these days. It's, in other words, I think it's a good thing to get to know people, both professionally and personally, so you can feel comfortable passing business to them or introducing them to someone that that might be a valuable connection for them. So look at social media: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you find somebody, Google their name, and see where they're at. Go to their place wherever they are, and if they're hanging out on Twitter, then go to Twitter and simply follow, connect, friend, whatever. I do want to mention LinkedIn again, though. LinkedIn is specifically a professional network, social network platform. And that's a great place to be able to make connections with people. When you do follow somebody on LinkedIn, I really encourage that if you get the opportunity, when you click on the connect button, if it pops up the opportunity to type a personal note, by all means, that's where you can say, "We met at BNI last week." All right.
Absolutely.
Put it there.
On that note, Andy, if you don't mind me just popping in here really quickly in regard to Facebook versus LinkedIn, I agree with you that Facebook has become more business connections than social. However, bear in mind, and I say this because I do this, your business connections may not have the same political or religious views that you do. And when you friend them personally, that can affect a early on relationship. So if I would suggest, if you're going to connect from a business standpoint, LinkedIn might be the first place to reach out to them. And then as you guys get to know each other, maybe Facebook social media becomes a little bit more compatible, I guess, or a better manner as you get to know each other better. But I do know that we have done trainings within BNI chapters about the couple of things that you need to be cautious about when you're using your Facebook page as part of your business, your personal, not your company, but your personal, is because there are some subjects that are out there, and we're seeing them all the time, that, you know, probably has no place in a business conversation. So
Right.
that 7 days might be better started on a LinkedIn professional site than eventually maybe a Facebook friend.
Yeah, and I totally agree. If they're on LinkedIn, that's the best place to start.
Absolutely.
But you know, I'm finding that there's a lot of people that are not on LinkedIn. You know, and so
Yeah.
then Facebook is the next choice. So, you know, I try to be careful myself that I don't put too much of any one thing on Facebook or any of the other social media platforms. In other words, all of my posts are not going to be, you know, down the political line, or all of them are not going to be down, you know, religious beliefs, and all of them are not going to be down business either.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and bringing a positive, supportive message in social media. Sometimes it's easy to be at the keyboard and start tapping out about what frustrates you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know,
because
you see it on there.
Platform. That's right.
Yeah, you see it on there all the time. You know, people griping about something, and I just want to go back to positive, supportive attitude. This is a lifestyle. It's not just in BNI. It's not just in your business. But positive, supportive attitude is a lifestyle. And I can tell you from my perspective, it has caused me to grow as a husband, as a father, in you know, in all my relationships, approaching this from positive, supportive attitude. It really has changed things. So be careful on social media, you know, what you're posting. Finally, 30, 24/7 and 30. Within 30 days, reach out to your new connection and invite them to coffee or lunch. Let's just call it coffee. Now,
Right.
Susan, why am I not saying invite them to have a one-to-one?
Because one-to-one is BNI language, and this person is not a BNI member at this point. So it is a social sit-down type connection.
That's right. So, you know, this is where you want to call them up. You've already sent them a note somehow. You've already connected with them on LinkedIn or wherever. Now you're going to call them up or send them a note that simply says, hey, we met at BNI, and I'd love to learn more about you and your business. Let's have coffee together. And then give them a couple of dates to choose from. How about next Friday at 8 or the following week, you know? Give them a couple of times to choose from, particularly if you're sending them an email or a LinkedIn message or something along those lines. Give them a couple of dates. If you're on the phone with them, well, that's a little bit different. You know, you can simply say, what is your schedule looking like next week, or you know, 2 weeks from now. Give people plenty of time to look at it, and also, don't you think it's important to give somebody the opportunity to say no if they're not into it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we don't want them to feel like that if they say no, that it's going to be a major ordeal, right? So always, when you ask somebody, you know, you can say something like, you know, well, is next week good, or you, and then follow it by saying, but you know, if you're not into it, that's okay too. You know, just kind of so that we don't ever want somebody to feel, well, what the heck am I meeting with her for?
Right. I think
why does he want to meet with me? You know, stuff like that.
The important thing, I believe, that you can say to help address that is, Andy, I enjoyed meeting you at the Rainmakers chapter meeting last Wednesday at Tusculum. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm very interested in sitting down and talking with you and getting to know more about your business, because we're not doing this, or we should not be doing this, to go out and sell our product, because that is going to leave such a sour taste in people's mouth, not only about you, but BNI as an organization. Oh, all those BNIers just call and they try to sell us stuff. It's about connecting with the other person and getting to know more about them.
It's about giver's gain.
Exactly.
Not about taker's gain,
right.
but
right.
giver's gain. And so absolutely no selling on this initial meeting.
Oh,
In fact, there should be no selling unless they ask you to.
Exactly.
So, sit down and ask them, have some questions that you've rehearsed or written down. Tell me about your business. How long have you been in the business? How did you get into that business? Why do you like it so much? What kind of challenges do you face? What kind of goals do you have? Where do you see this business going?
Absolutely.
Have some questions that are going to focus on them. And I believe that this creates a vacuum. So if you want someone to be interested in you, you got to first be interested in them. And when you're asking them questions about their business, then at some point, if they're halfway normal, they should turn around and say, well, wait a minute. You've been asking me about my business. I want to know about you and your business. Right? And the idea here is we're not just looking to sell to this person. We're looking to establish a relationship that they might be willing to refer their contacts to you.
Yes.
It's never about selling to that individual unless that individual pops up and says, you're in the IT business. Tell me about it. And, my business is in need of the services like your company sells. Can you tell me more?
That's right.
That's when it turns into, well, I didn't call you here to sell you, but by all means, if you're interested, I'm happy to talk about it. But I just want you to know I didn't call you here to sell you.
Right.
How many one-to-ones go? Yeah, go ahead.
I started saying, you have no idea if you're sitting across that person that has the dream referral for your business for the next 5 months or 5 years. But that's not why you went there. It is about giver's gain. We should care about other people's businesses and connecting with them and helping them. And it always does. There is an ROI, and that phrase of return on involvement. It's what's in it for me. Well, you're a giver's gain BNI member. You're helping someone else. You're making a connection. Maybe they are the perfect answer to a client's need for you, and you just never knew that. How much better does that make you look to your client?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So there you have the 24/7 and 30 system. Use it, don't abuse it. Absolutely. And I know that it pays off. It works. Coming up down the pike, I just want to make all of our members aware that Member Extravaganza 2019 is coming down the pike April and May. So this is a 2-month membership drive. And the idea here is that we want to give our members a reminder, a good reason, some education about growing their chapter to grow their business. But here's the thing that we want to look at is look at your fellow members in your chapter and ask yourself, does every one of these people have an equal opportunity to succeed in our BNI chapter? In other words, if you're in the home services industries and you've got 5 or 10 people in your chapter that are in that power team or contact sphere, that are providing home services with real estate or trades, y'all are probably having a great time and passing a lot of referrals and doing good business. But what about that person that may be the sole person in your chapter that's in their contact sphere? And face it, health and wellness is usually the weakest point in most chapters. Okay, of the 5 most common contact spheres, health and wellness usually is the weakest. So start looking at your health and wellness members and asking yourself, do they have the equal opportunity as I have? And then how can I help them? Now that might require that you pick up the phone and call them or schedule a one-to-one with them and ask them questions like, who do you need in this chapter to help you to have an equal opportunity as the rest of us are having? Let them tell you who they need. And then if you know someone in that profession, bring them to your chapter, whether or not they join. See, it's not about joining, it's about connecting. Now, we hope that they'll have such an awesome experience at your chapter that they can't help but apply for membership. And Member Extravaganza is about new members. There's a contest associated with it, and the contest is for a all-expenses-paid cruise with Dr. Ivan Meisner and BNI members from around the country, and they're going to the Bahamas later this year. We need at least 3 of our chapters to gain at least 6 new members each during the period of April 1 to May 31 in order for us to qualify. And if we do meet that minimum qualification, then each of the sponsoring members will have their name entered into the drawing for each new member they sponsor. So if you sponsor 2 or 3 people, your name will go into the drawing 2 or 3 times. And then we'll draw out a winner to see who gets to go on the all-expenses-paid cruise. And so that's coming down the pike. Be expecting to hear more about that from your directors. Take a look at the BNI Knox calendar. Go to the BNIKnox.com, click on the calendar, and you're going to see that for the next few weeks, there's some webinars called Deep Dives, BNI Connect Deep Dives. And this is a really good series of webinars being put on by Jeremy Walsh, who is the Director of Technology. Please forgive me if I'm getting his title a little bit wrong there, but he's Director of Technology for BNI, and he's putting on this series of webinars to help our members to learn more about the BNI Connect system and how it works. So I really encourage that. Member Success Program is March the 11th. That is a Monday. Monday, March the 11th, Member Success Program. All new members are required to go within the first 60 days of membership. And existing members are encouraged to go at least once a year. You know, the networking opportunities that are at the class, you know, they're not available at BNI University, although the BNI University Member Success Program training is great and it's valuable and it does qualify to meet your minimum requirements. We still encourage you to attend the class, and the next one is March the 11th. Speaking of BNI University, we are now uploading all of our podcast episodes there. So if you're having trouble finding it somewhere else, or if you'd like to be able to get some credits built up in BNI University, Susan, I know that there's some people in your chapter that are having a sort of a competitive thing going on. Tell me real briefly about that.
Yes, our growth coordinators, and imagine the reason why we picked them to be our growth coordinators, they are knocking it out of the park. Bridget Miller and Robert Smith, they are in this huge competition with who gets the most time and credits on the university. And then our mentor coordinator, Rob Dancero, has kicked in as part of that also. It's fun to listen to them kind of smack talk each other. So
yeah.
They're all over it. They're all over
For the
it.
competitive members, this is a great thing to do at the chapter level, is to see who in the chapter can rack up the most credits or points with time spent in BNI University. And the BNI Knox podcast is one of those things that will count. You'll also find us in the iTunes directory, which means that any of your podcast apps will carry us, and we're uploading them up onto YouTube as well. So, Susan, thank you so much for being my special guest today. Or do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you wanted to add before we close?
I think one of the most important things I can add in regard to the subject matter that we just covered, do not worry about bringing members to your chapter. Invite visitors. The rest of it will take care of itself.
Absolutely. That's a good point to close on. So thanks again for being our guest today, Susan. It's a pleasure to have you on here.
You're very welcome, Andy. Have a great day.
All right, this is Andy Brassfield, your BNI Knoxville Region Executive Director, signing off on the BNI Knox podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.